You're listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike Finkelstein. With me in the booth, currently as always, is. You wanna introduce yourself? We're gonna let you do a proper intro for yourself now.
Oh wow, look at that! I have earned the right
You've
to say,
earned it.
"Hey guys, it's the other Mike, also known as Luffy. Good to see you and hear you. Hi."
So today we are going to be discussing a topic that I've actually wanted to talk on the podcast for a while now, but it's hard to get my other co-hosts to talk with me because they weren't horror fans. But you are, so let's do this.
I am.
Yeah, it's great. I am enjoying this. So you found a list online of the top 31 horror movie villains from IGN, and I have thoughts.
So do I. It's a recent list too, so you're gonna get quite a range here. It's from October, Halloween 2022, so you're going on 7 months old or so. So this is pretty fresh stuff here.
So there are some choices on here that the pedant in me is just like the Babadook. I've watched that movie. It's more of a presence than a villain. I saw zombies were on the list, and I'm like, the whole of zombies? Like, that's not.
I think the genre in general, I believe. Yeah,
guys, and some of them are like it's you're calling them horror movie villains, but like the dude from Split, while he's a villain, I hardly call him a horror movie villain. You know?
Yeah, I mean, horror movie, sure, I guess, but I mean, it's M. Night Shyamalan. It's a thriller. It's not exactly horror. So there's going to be some liberties taken.
Yeah.
We'll kind of run through the majority list, like whatever. We'll get to the top 5, maybe spend some time on that. But like the main call out I got, number 30, Jigsaw. Like I mean, no.
No, Jigsaw does nothing for me. Like so I've only watched the first movie of the whole series, and it wasn't because I was grossed out by Saw. It was because I watched it, and the entire time I'm sitting there going, this is just a really shit version of Seven.
It's just like, I mean, I get it, the little traps and the toys and whatnot, and making the other people do their thing. Like, I remember when I saw the first Saw in the theater, that when Carrie Ewells was finally cutting his leg off, we were cheering because we were all so fucking bored at what was going on.
Like, damn, it's just so awful.
Like, just snap it off already and get on with it. Like, get out of here. This is terrible. Like, sure, he's got like 27 movies, fine, whatever.
Saw's gone like 8, I think, at this point. 7 of the main line, and then Spiral or New Saw or Saw.
That one from like 6 or 7 years ago, that one was actually pretty good when you got like his like history backstory and like how the one person ended up being his accomplice. Yeah. That one was pretty good, honestly. I did not see that.
More than I have.
I did not see that twist at the end coming, and it was pretty cool. That one I liked, but I mean the other ones I've seen, it's torture, death porn, whatever. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
Like, there's no substance.
No, and that's my problem with them. A lot of them, like when you watch Seven, you get an actual like mystery and reasoning behind them and everything. Saw is just like, oh my, you didn't say bless you when someone else sneezed. I must now put you in this 5-piece cage that will slowly crush you to death because you were an impolite person. Like, really? What the fuck is this? Okay.
I don't know. Trying to be Batman Vengeance or something.
Right?
Okay. This is dumb.
Number 28 is one that I want to call out. I want to call 27 afterwards first. But 28, the entity from It Follows, not a villain. It's a presence.
I mean, if you're going this route here, you need to just bring the Mist from the Mist in here, because that shit was more scary than the STD that follows you around. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're conflating two different things. And 27 is Frankenstein's monster, and I have an issue with this because it's the doctor that's the villain, not the creation.
Yeah, he is misunderstood at best, and he comes off as the villain because he's the monster, but the real monster is the one that made him. People, come on.
Especially if you watch the Hammer horror movies with Peter Cushing in the lead role. Oh, so good, and he is just straight up just like sociopath.
yeah, and the one from the late 90s with Kenneth Branagh and Robert De Niro, that when they tried to almost play the doctor off as like just wanting to bring his love back and a scientist and dedicated to his work. No, he was a dick. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, he was. I can't get through Frankenstein the novel either because I'm just like, you're such a moron, dude. You're supposed to be this brilliant doctor, and I just hate you so much.
So number 26, and I feel like he should be higher just based off of the performance? the performance
Yeah.
and the movie, how that movie was like one of the transcendent horror movies of its time. Norman Bates. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
fantastic.
I mean, if you wanna take the whole of the series, like, together, I could see rating him lower just because the rest of the movies were really tacked on and bad. But the first movie is, I mean, it's a masterpiece for a reason, and as long as you ignore the reboot, it stands on its own.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that even now is scary in a way. And like, it's going on probably close to 60, 70 years old. I mean, it's Hitchcock, and a
Yeah,
lot of people,
old.
but you ask a kid today what Hitchcock is, they're gonna have no idea. They think of the Hancock with Will Smith. No, Hitchcock. Anyway, like it's just classic horror, and it's very well done. It's a very spooky thing. You don't see it coming at the end and the twist, and everybody knows what it is now because it's so old. But I mean, he's like, look at him at the end of the movie. He's like, I'm gonna sit here and look at him. He won't even kill a fly. He's so harmless, and all he's just thinking about is all these evil things that he's done. He's crazy. He's flat out crazy.
Fantastic performance.
Yep,
25.
absolutely.
25 ties into a whole set of movies that I just don't care about at all. The Omen, specifically Damien from The Omen. No one gives a shit. Those movies were bad.
Antichrist, sure, whatever.
whatever.
I wasn't a fan of these movies either. They're all right, whatever.
The Exorcist, which is a different series, but The
Yeah.
Exorcist is my all-time cure for insomnia. I get 15 minutes into that thing and I pass out because it's so boring.
It's a fantastic horror movie for what it is, but it does move at a bit of a snail's pace, and the Pazuzu is a bit of an idiot and kind of a shitty villain. But I mean, it's
Fun to say his name.
yeah, it is a fun name to say. Trying to pretend he's Satan and he's not Satan, like he's just trying to play the priest or whatever. But
Diet Satan.
yeah. So Damien the Omen, no thanks. 24, The Creeper from Jeepers Creepers.
Only the first movie was good. The rest of them suck. And
yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, we're gonna run into this a lot for me. A villain has to actually be a villain. Like, if you want to call them a villain and not just a monster or a presence, then they actually have to have a personality behind them. The Creeper only shows up in brief snatches and shows almost no personality whatsoever. He is not a villain; he's a monster, and that's a key difference. I know, I'm going to say this again every time we run across it, but he's good in the first movie for what he is, but that movie is about the two teens, and then this weird monster that kind of follows behind them and attacks them once in a while.
Yeah, the movie itself is very creepy. I still remember the effect of when I first saw it, when the little brother falls down the hole and like the camera slowly pans up and you see all the bodies stitched together and you're like, what the actual fuck is going on?
Yeah.
It's scary. It's some creepy effect. And then the creeper himself, like he just doesn't die. You shoot him, you stab him, you poke his eye out, you cut him in half. He just keeps coming back. Like he's definitely a force in a way, but at the same time, every 23 years, 23rd day, 23 days, if you're prepared, you're fine.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just stay indoors. That's my rule for everything. Just stay indoors.
Yeah.
When your villain can be defeated by you not going outside, that's a problem.
Right, because he's not. And if you saw the second one, he doesn't go in the bus after them. I mean, that thing could destroy that bus in a second, and it just toys with them. He's all about the fear and relishing in that. He's not about a purpose, just the fear.
Yeah. Annabelle is at number 23 for some reason, because apparently we're just gonna do this whole list at this point. And I'm sorry, I can't care about the Conjuring franchise at all. I've watched one of them. I was bored.
Not a fan. Doll movies, they're not for me.
If you're gonna give me an evil doll movie, it's got to be Chucky, or at the very least Megan. Those ones were good, but they have some personality to them. A weird, creepy doll that sits there and moves its eyes around. Yeah, no, I'm fine.
I gotta watch Megan. That's one I definitely gotta check out.
That was good. I liked that. That was a good one. That was a very, very good one. Fuck is 22? Oh, 22. That's okay. I'm gonna be pedantic again. It's supposed to be a villain, and they're saying the entire family from Get Out, which, by the way, good movie on its own.
Yeah.
But no, we're once again we're stretching the definition of what this list should be, and that's stupid.
I watched another YouTube video. This is why when you talked about horror, I was like, "Ooh, I just watched a video on this too." And let me pull up a list because I'm curious. They were number one on that list because of the way that they went about things and how they bring you in with this unsuspecting loving family thing, and only to try to snatch your soul. It's fucked up. I get that, but Number one on one list and 22 on another. I mean, it wildly varies, like how you can appreciate this, and it's again to your point, not a single villain.
Now the daughter, creepy as fuck in that movie. Like
What a
she,
bitch!
right? She sucks him in. She knows
Mhm.
what's going to happen. She makes him fall in love with her. You even think that she's developed some genuine affection for him, but not enough to
Yeah,
not want to reprogram him. As the movie is
yeah,
basically like black, a African American fear kind of disturbing behavior, a Stepford family kind of bullshit. Like,
right.
great story. The daughter who almost is like the closest we get to a lead villain, creepy as shit in that.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
she knows her boyfriend is getting reprogrammed, and she's sitting up on her bed like eating Fruit Loops. Like that's some disturbing shit right there. If you want
yeah.
to single her out, I agree with you that she's a decent villain. I wouldn't put her anywhere near on this list though because she's not one of the top 30 for me.
No, getting into the top 20 here, we'll start actually hitting on like some
Hmm.
actual like real villains. In
Hmm.
these first 12 or so, like they're like whatever. But yeah, the daughter, super bitch.
Yeah, super bitch. I agree.
21, and this is where I start questioning because I think it should actually, again, but I think it should be higher. Ghostface. I mean, the Scream franchise itself is very huge cult
Yes.
following.
Yes.
I watched the most recent Scream and it was very good. Honestly, really good. Took me back to, they start to replay these formulas of like, hey,
Hmm.
what worked in the first one? Let's kind of roll back to that in a way, but then throw you a curveball at the end you might not necessarily see coming with the villain, which is what they did. And
Hmm.
it's pretty good. And Ghostface, what makes him so scary? He could be anybody. Is he the boyfriend? Is he your best friend? I mean, he's just very scary, and I think he should be higher.
So, on a list of horror franchises, I would rate Scream very high.
Mhm.
Ghostface is not a single character. I have an issue with this list.
Mhm.
Again, pedantic. I'm having problems with this. Now,
Mhm.
if we want to talk single out Billy and Stu from the first movie, I think they were the most effective villains of the franchise because they're the
Right.
ones that kicked off the whole constant slaughter that's happened every few years in this sad, poor town.
Right.
Um, like
Poor Nev Campbell.
poor Nev Campbell, who finally got out of the franchise by not getting paid enough, and you got to think her character is going to be much better off at this point.
And then she comes back with Courtney Cox for the most recent one. It was crazy.
Not for number 6. She's not in for number 6.
Not number 6, but number 5 she
Yep.
was back in,
Yep.
which was fun.
She still survives, which good for
She
her.
does. Yeah.
But no, it's like Stu and Billy were great villains, and the series has struggled to find a pair of villains to actually match up with it. They gave a good backstory to the director villain from the third movie, but he
Right.
still didn't compare. Like Stu
No.
and Billy were the best because they were the most realized, and they had a strong fucking evil performance from Skeet Ulrich and Shaggy. Thank
Matthew
you,
Lillard.
Matthew
Yeah.
Lillard. Who's Shaggy? Like he does the
Yes.
voice for just about all Shaggies at this point, and he does a great voice. I'm
Yeah.
besides the point, but still,
Yeah.
like you really want a cartoon where like the Scooby Doo gang gets stuck in the Scream universe, so he can play both like Stu and Shaggy, and then they can do the reveal and like it's the teenager from the theme park.
Let's see who's behind this mask. It's old man MacGuffin all along.
And I would have killed all of you if it weren't for those damn kids and their dog.
So
Uh,
love Scream as a
Scream's
franchise.
a fantastic
Ghostface,
franchise. Yeah.
underrated killer, but I
Mhm.
hear you, not a singular villain.
Not saying
Number
but
12.
number 1, number 3, number 5, and I hear number 6, great films. The
Mhm.
franchise as a whole, I would put up near the top of
Mhm.
any slasher list that we want to put together.
Yeah. So number 20, Candyman. Fine. The first one was scary. I remember seeing it when I
Yep.
was a kid, but I mean, I didn't watch any of the reboots, and they're kind of equating him to like Nightmare on Elm Street as the boogeyman
Mm,
kind of thing.
mm.
I guess I'll buy it, but I mean, number 20, I guess I'm fine with it.
There are points to be had from. I heard the most recent one is good. I haven't watched it yet. I've been saving it until I can get a copy of the second one, so I can go
Mhm.
through all of them on my website. Um,
Mhm.
but I really like the first one. I think the first one is great, vaguely based on a Clive Barker story and
Mhm.
creepy as shit. I remember like I've seen 2 and 3, but not anytime recently, and they weren't as good. But I heard the most recent one was. It's just that the first one is so iconic in its way, and Tony
Mhm.
Todd is great in the role that I can see why he's on this list and he's as high up as he is. Even
Mhm.
if I have to agree with you as far as franchise is concerned, not so great.
Yeah, weak
Yeah.
franchise, great villain,
Hmm.
which is why I can agree with him being on the list. It's fine.
Yep. Samura, or if you want to go Sadako, uh, from the Ring series, which I gotta say, I only liked the first American Ring. I actually went through and watched a bunch of the Japanese ones, and now
Mhm.
this is a problem of I'm American, I'm not Japanese, so the horror that works for that culture doesn't necessarily work for me. A creepy girl with long hair wandering around isn't so scary on its own, but the way the American version was, which I think was directed by Gore Verbinski,
Mhm.
that was a really effective film. Like that one was fucking creepy as shit, and the
Yeah.
movies have struggled to ever match that since.
It was very, like you said, Japanese horror is a very
Hmm.
specific kind of
It
horror,
is.
and this is like very scary in their culture, the whole demon thing, and the little girl especially at it, and Samara's role, and played by I don't remember her name offhand, but I'm gonna look it up. She's the voice actor for Lilo and Stitch. The Lilo is who played Samara. Like, I mean,
It's
put
amazing.
those two together, it's amazing. The range on this young woman. Um, but I mean, she's genuinely scary, and you think that with the movie that they figure it out at the end, and they're trying to like release her and send her away, and I still remember like the son being like, "You helped her? You weren't supposed to help her." I'm like, "What do you mean you weren't supposed to help her? That was what you're supposed to. What do you mean you weren't? Oh my god!" And then the boyfriend dies horribly. Like,
Yeah,
oh, so good.
yeah. But I will say the real horror is the thought that anyone still owns a VHS player.
Yeah, Davi Chase is who played Lilo, and that is Samara, and God, creepy.
Death from Final Destination at number 18, and we're gonna have my problem again with the fact that this isn't a villain, this is a presence. Like,
Mhm.
there's no character here. It's
Mhm.
the most elaborate Rube Goldberg-esque deaths you will ever seen.
That's
Some of those are,
fantastic.
yeah, fucking fantastic gore fests sometimes. Not a
Right.
villain.
No, and like you said, the gore in there. Like I remember the first one with the dude from American Pie,
Stifler!
Stifler.
Yeah,
Yeah, when
Sean
they're
William
sitting
Scott.
there. Yeah, Sean William Scott, thank you. And then when the thing kicks up off the train tracks and cuts his head off, I'm like, oh, like every little thing you never knew where it was coming, and
Yeah,
it's the fear of it's right around the corner and it waits for no one and it will always get you in the end that makes it on this list, and I get that, but I mean, death. You could just throw the list out the window and just say death if you want to
yeah,
play that
right,
game. So like
right.
whatever.
And I will also take exception with the fact that most of the films on all in that franchise kind of suck, and it's
Mhm.
because of the fact that they never pin down the mythology. It's like every movie decides to reinvent what the mythology for it is. So
Mhm.
you can't even keep track of what the fuck it is or who they're supposed to be like saving or running from or what anymore. Because it was like they followed a list in the first one, and then the second one, it's people related to the people from the first list, but backwards. And you're like, the
Yeah,
fuck are we even doing now?
I mean, death was literally just playing games with people at that point. Like, and
Death
it,
is the most elaborate long con killer I have ever fucking seen.
yep,
It's
yep.
terrible.
But the deaths in it gruesome, the gore
Mhm.
fantastic, the story's okay, the villain whatever. Number 17, Poltergeist. This shit scared me as a kid. Like, I'm sorry, like the ghost in that, the guy who was like the main poltergeist, like I could still see like his face in like the cave, like with all the sweat and all the people dying, and like it's just that poltergeist is some scary shit.
The first
Corny.
one.
Yeah, the first
The first
one
one.
corny nowadays, when looking back on it, but I mean
Mhm.
it was some scary shit when I was young.
But different poltergeists for each movie. So,
Yep, yep, yep.
but like at a certain point, for this family, stop moving to haunted buildings. Okay, really, after the first movie, the shit is on you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Number 16, and
I agree with this one.
I do too.
Yeah.
A bit of an underrated villain, honestly, because you want to talk batshit crazy. Annie Wilkes from the Stephen King novel Misery,
Mm-hmm.
which was put into film, with James Caan as the lead actor, and Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes, and who as the sadistic fan who nurses back her book. Her hero book writer back to health to write a novel just for her, only to break his legs to keep him there when he's too healthy to come and to leave. It's just like just twisted woman.
Yeah, the movie actually makes it worse than the in many ways than the book did, because the book, like, she cuts off his foot, and
Hmm.
that's a maiming, but like there's something worse about the way she does it in the movie with like breaking it with a hammer and you just feeling every crunch of it. It's like,
Yeah, like
ooh,
the putting the 4x4 in between his legs
ah,
and then the swing and the snap, like,
yeah,
oh god.
so bad.
To this day, it just still gives me like shivers from that
Hmm.
scene alone, you know. And I remember seeing that for the first time on like HBO when I was young, like up at like 2 a.m. Definitely shouldn't be up that late, you know, as like, you know, a younger kid in my like early teens, you know, whatever. But oh man, that was some spooky stuff.
So we got Chucky at number 15, and I love this series. Number 2 and number 3 are weak entries, but
Hmm.
it reinvented itself with the fourth movie, Bride of Chucky, and that at
Hmm.
that point, like the series basically went no holds barred. Any fucked up idea they can think of, they'll just do at this point.
Yeah.
Seed of Chucky was really weird and strange, and not the best film, but at least it had something to it. And then Curse and Cult of Chucky are really fucking like just scary and fucked up movies as the series just continues building on its mythology without throwing any of its mythology away. I love this series. I think it's great.
Very good series.
Mhm.
Chucky, you know, the good guy doll, you know, from humble beginnings as a plastic toy to the demonic presence of a serial killer inside of him from the first movie. Very good villain, very creepy because he's so small, and you know, just keeps coming back again. You know, chop him into a million pieces in a blender, stitch himself back together.
Always. Yeah.
I
They melted
always
him in
thought,
the second movie and he got
yeah.
reformed in the third one. Yeah.
Yep, I always felt it like so creepy too that like, you know, when the doll would get cut or something, he would actually bleed
Mhm.
because it was still connected to the soul of the serial killer. Like, oh man, it's a quality franchise, and I agree with its place up here.
Yeah, no, totally. And let's not undersell the fact that the character works so well because
Hmm.
he's voiced by Brad Dourif.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
like they had Mark Hamill do the voice for that Child's Play like remake quote unquote reboot thing, and it just wasn't the same.
Mark Hamill, fantastic as Joker,
Mhm.
fantastic as Luke Skywalker.
Mhm.
He just couldn't pull off Chucky. You know,
There's an
sorry. Yeah.
iconicness to that role that only Brad Dourif can do.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, speaking we touched upon this when we talked about The Omen, but oh, look at that. Pazuzu at number 14. Yeah, whatever.
It's a fantastic horror movie. I hear you that it puts you to sleep. You know, maybe if you ever do get through it all the way one day, it's a good movie.
Eh.
It's long.
Uh-huh.
It's cerebral in a way, but also drawn out. It's creepy, and the whole presence behind, you know, the little girl being possessed and the head spinning and the projectile vomiting and the, you know, the def the, you know, doing things with the cross or whatever
Yeah.
you want to say to, like, you know, just really throw it in the priest's face. It was, you know, it's creepy. It's fine. You know, Reagan.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are movies built for an audience that doesn't include me because
Hmm.
these kinds of villains don't do anything for me. I'm Jewish, um, and not even that good a Jew. Like things that build on the Christianity side of Judeo-Christian and try and play on those fears, just they don't
Mhm.
do anything for me.
Right.
Exorcist, Omen, Rosemary's Baby. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Again, you know, they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine.
They're scary. They have their
Yeah.
moments, but I mean, they don't have a place on this list for me.
No.
Um,
Jack Torrance from The Shinin, which is
I,
always
I
how
have
I have to.
feelings. I have feelings on this one.
Okay,
Like,
go for it.
I think that the reason he's on this list is just Jack Nicholson.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I
I,
agree.
that's it. I mean,
That's it.
is Jack Torrance a fucked up father? Yeah. Does he do a lot of fucked up shit? Sure.
Sure.
Is he a scary villain? Yeah. Would he be here or anywhere near close to the top 10 if it wasn't Jack Nicholson's performance? No.
No, because they don't. They're not like talking about the miniseries version that had the dude from Wings on it. Like,
Yeah. No.
no. And this is here's the thing too is like if we're talking about who's the villain of the movie, I don't really feel like it's Jack. Jack is a patsy. The
Yeah.
hotel is the villain, and that's a
Yeah.
presence.
Yep,
Like,
back
yeah,
to that again. Yeah,
yeah.
the casting in that movie was fantastic. Jack Nicholson was perfect in the role. Shelley
Hmm.
Duvall with her wide-eyed, like just horrible, like contorted, like scared faces whenever he did something crazy was perfect as the wife. And little Danny was creepy as shit. So I mean, the movie itself was fantastic. The casting was brilliant, and I think that's why it's on the list.
Hmm.
You want to put Jack Nicholson on the list instead of Jack Torrance? I'm in, but Jack Torrance,
Yeah, not so much.
he's there for one reason, and it's not the movie.
If they'd said The Overlook, I would agree with it more than just saying
Yeah,
Jack Torrance. Yeah.
yeah.
The Thing at number
Ugh,
12, and oh my god, such a good movie.
I love this movie.
Oh god, it's so good.
Mhm.
I hadn't seen it for like years.
Yeah.
Like I'd known about the movie, but it wasn't one that I'd ever watched. And I was with friends, and this was 15 years ago. I was with friends and finally sat down to watch because like you need to watch this. You love horror. Why haven't you watched this? And I mean,
Mhm.
like I'm with it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's creepy. Whatever. But it's the sequence where the head rips off the body, falls to the
Mhm.
floor, grows spider legs, and goes skittering off.
Yeah.
Hits like my friend's wife was like, "Oh my god!" and
Yeah.
she left the room. I'm like, "Okay, this movie has cemented itself for me right here."
Yeah, and the line Parker has looking over it like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like
Right?
it's like that. Say that at any point in this movie.
Uh-huh.
John Carpenter, a masterpiece of a horror director. This movie, the first time I saw it, I don't remember how old, but it was like during the day, like on like a I don't know a channel, but it was edited. So I did not know how
Fucked up.
violent and bloody and fucked up this movie was. I caught it on like at like 3 o'clock in the morning on like FX one day, like 15, 20 years ago. And I'm like, I couldn't turn it off. It was so gruesome and
Uh-huh.
horrific. Like every
Mhm.
bit of it was so good. And it's another one of those movies that just it comes on. I'll watch it. Like
Yeah.
I will watch this movie every time.
Oh yeah.
It should be higher. This movie is brilliant.
It's brilliant. Like a lot of people didn't like it when it came out. They weren't ready for how grotesque it is. But I think that's part of
Yeah.
why it has such lasting power. Is just no holds barred. John Carpenter went for every fucked up idea his designers could come up with, and they just
Yeah.
let it just evolve. Um,
Yeah. And let's
but
just say something about this too. Like what makes it so brilliant is the practical effects.
mhm.
The way that it's done without special effects and CGI and the puppeteering in it is brilliant and gruesome. They tried to remake it, and the one that came out a few years
It's
ago
okay.
is it's fine,
Fine.
but you really could tell they were like, hey, how can we CGI this up even more to make it even more CGI instead of practical? And that's not
Yeah.
what this movie is.
Well, and
And
I was gonna say that's the pity of that movie is that when they filmed it, they used practical effects, but the studio,
yes,
yeah, they made them put CGI over top.
yeah, they made him go back in and change
Yep.
things, and it
Yep.
was a horrible mistake. And like,
Huge mistake.
I mean, I get it. You think that you want to do that because that's the way things are now, but people are
Yeah.
coming to that for the practical effect. The
Mhm.
name, the thing, for synonymous horrific practical effect, not CGI. You're going to get anywhere else.
No, yeah, no, and I think like still to this day, bucking for the director's cut that restores the original like practical effects because that's what you
Yeah,
need. Like, I
yeah,
still don't think it would feel like anything more than a derivative of the original.
right.
An unnecessary prequel that tells you a story you kind of already got the previous time without really adding anything new. But at the
Mhm.
very least, they could make it scarier.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and this is a clear indication of when CGI is not the answer.
Yup. So,
Number 11, my favorite movie of all time, and I can get behind this person or this creature anywhere on this list is Jaws, and I love this movie to death. I can quote you any line from it. It's my favorite movie ever. Um, I'm fine with him on number 11. I'm just happy he made the list, but I could put him at number 1 and still be
it's
happy.
just a shark.
I
It's
don't care.
just a fucking
Yeah,
shark. And
I
it's
don't care.
and
This made me not want to swim in my aunt's swimming pool as a kid,
and as
bro.
a series, it's 4 different sharks.
No, and let's very clearly say it's the first one. The second
Yeah.
one, okay, it's fine. The third one, they tried to do 3D. No, the
I've watched
fourth
all of
one,
them. Oh my
yeah,
god, fourth one's abomination. Oh.
the revenge. Like Michael Caine is the saving grace of that movie, and he's not even that good in it.
No, no, no.
But the first one, it's my favorite movie ever. I will watch it every time it comes on. I will quote you any line from it. It's a brilliant movie. Steven Spielberg did an amazing job. It is the beginning of what you know as a summer blockbuster.
Mhm.
It's nearly a perfect movie, and it works because the shark didn't.
So I'll grant you this. I'll let it go. Number 10, I have some serious problems with because it's zombies, and there are all kinds of reasons I don't think this should be on the list. Like all kinds. I love zombies. Zombies are great, especially slow zombies. The George Romero films are fantastic. Even some
Mhm,
of his later ones that most people said didn't work, I kind of got into.
mhm.
But there are entire like it. putting this on the list is like, I don't know, saying all trolls from any movie ever gets to be a villain. Like,
Yeah.
no. It's not even like you're specifically saying the Romero zombies in this particular case, which they didn't. They're just
Mhm.
saying zombies. Um,
I think, we're back to that, like, it's an idea,
yeah,
more so than it's an actual
yeah.
thing. And to your point, like, the slow zombie, the fast zombie, the running zombie, the brain eating zombie,
Hmm.
there's a million different kinds, from The Walking Dead to Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
And you want to put them on this list, fine, but I think it needs some clear definition of what zombie you're going for, because I think that matters.
There are specific ones. Like there are specific zombie characters that I think that could rate on like some kind of specific list. Like the girlfriend from Return of the Living Dead 3 is kind of a villain for a good portion of that movie, and she's a
Mhm,
personality. Um,
mhm.
so like they're like you could single out specific zombies to be like the villain or from a specific group or something, but just every zombie ever.
Yeah,
And they do that because they list like the Romero ones and then 28 days and other things, which 28 days later is not zombies, it's rage infected humans. Let's be clear
yeah,
about this. I
very
have an
different.
issue. I have an
Mhm,
issue. And now, before we get any further on the list, because this was number 10, I also have an issue with something else. Uh,
mhm.
because of the characters they put on this list, some of which did not deserve to be on here, like zombies, one of the great movie villains of all time is not on here, Herbert West
Ooh,
from The
refresh.
Reanimator,
Oh,
right?
yeah, good
Like
movie.
he's in three of them, and he's always like deep down the Frankensteinish villain, and he
Mhm.
doesn't get to be on this list. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why not?
I
He's
mean,
the
I don't
best.
know.
He's the best. Like as far as a Frankenstein style character is concerned, he is fucking great. I love him. There's
Mhm,
my favorite is the third movie, Beyond Reanimator.
mhm,
He's discovered a way to trap a person's soul in a little soul bottle. And so that he uses his reanimator goo, and then he puts the little soul energy back in them. But he takes the soul energy from one person and puts it into a different person. And he's like, "It's good. It'll be fine. It's just the energy. They'll be fine." They're not fine. They're absolutely not fine. And then the boyfriend of the girl who dies, who gets someone else's soul put into her, he's like, "You told me it'd be fine," and he just looks and goes, "It was a theory." like, like, oh my god, dude,
Uh,
so wrong. Herbert West should be on this list.
I saw the first one when I was very young. I'd have to watch it again. But yeah, I remember that movie creeped me the hell out when I was a kid for
So good.
sure.
Watch the unrated version because it's better. There's the unrated and the R-rated, and the R-rated to take out a bunch of the gore and some of the nudity. They put in
Mhm,
an entire plot line that was wisely cut from the original. It's
mhm,
interesting character development, but of the two, the unrated is better because it's a tighter movie in general.
mhm.
So
I hear you.
yeah. Okay, so we can move on, and I feel like this one is going to be a little divisive, but Pennywise.
I think that it's fine. I think it's fine. I think Tim Curry did an amazing job for a very shitty miniseries and was
Yes.
quite scary and
Hmm.
brilliant. And I think Bill Skarsgård did fantastic in the remake. Yeah, I didn't get to see the second one because I couldn't. I don't know. It was fine, but I mean, the kids are what made the first one to me, and you want to
Hmm.
finish the story. Like the worst part of the miniseries was the adults.
Yes. And
So
honestly, that was the problem with the sequel was
yeah,
the adult plotline isn't nearly as interesting.
yeah.
Um and it just gets really dumb and goofy in ways the first half didn't. Like you're better off just watching part 1 and pretending part 2 doesn't exist.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the from 2017, the remake to Bill Skarsgård, very creepy, very terrifying. Saw that in the theater a couple times because it was so good. And Tim Curry, if you feel like killing, 7 hours one day to watch a brilliant Stephen King, adaptation that's not a brilliant series, but a brilliant job by one person, specifically Tim Curry, it's worth a watch.
Tim Curry does everything he can to salvage what is, as you said, a very shitty miniseries. Like,
Yeah,
I think Pennywise as a character works best when he's the presence in the sewers looking like a creepy clown.
yeah,
Where it always falls apart with me, and this is why I probably wouldn't put Pennywise as high on the list as he is, even if he is iconic, is like when it comes time to actually finally reveal his true form and defeat him, none of the adaptations have managed to figure out a way to do it. And even the book
yeah.
has its flaws with it. It's like it feels to me like Stephen King was like, well, we've got to end this, so let's just do an ending.
Like the deadlights, like what
Mhm.
are they? Is it just like is it the theory of fear? Is it like is it
Mhm.
he is an actual is he a giant spider? Like I don't know, but is he male, female, ambiguous? I don't know, but like to your point, I was excited and curious and scared to see how they would do it in the remake, to kind of make their true form or whatever, and you kind of got a little bit of it. But no one's really been able to quite capture it because, like you said, I don't think Stephen King knew what the fuck he was talking about when he
No,
wrote it.
no. Well, I mean, on a larger point, there are several stories that Stephen King has done where I feel like he came in with a brilliant idea, possibly fueled by cocaine because he was on a lot of cocaine at the time.
Oh yeah,
A brilliant idea that he wrote 1,000 pages for, and then was just like, "Oh my god, I don't have an ending. Let's just do something."
yeah,
The
yeah.
Stand is another one like that. The Stand is a really good half a book, for the about the like plague apocalypse, and then afterwards you're sitting there going, like Stephen King was like, "Well, I've got to do something with these characters now. I can't just end it." So
Hmm.
he tacked on a second half of the book that just doesn't thrill me. There's a
Yeah.
lot of those with his. It's just like, well, your ending feels tacked on, but man, you had a great idea up to that point.
You can really see and feel in some of his novels like where the come down starts.
Yep, yep. Where the cocaine has run out, and he's like, okay,
Yeah,
let's just bang this out
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. Number 8, and I'm fine with this
Yeah.
as a villain group in general. But again, I think it's multiple, but they do single out one. It's Pinhead.
Hmm.
I think the Cenobites themselves should be on here if you're going to put Pinhead,
Some
but
of
he's
them.
the main villain. I get it.
Some.
Pinhead's creepy. Pinhead's fucked up. I'll buy it. I guess it's fine.
I think D Bradley Baker, is that the guy who played him? I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. I think he does a fantastic job in the performance, what he's given to do. I think most of the movies tend to fail Pinhead as a character because I
Yeah,
deep down I don't think the movies were ever supposed to be about Pinhead, and they just kind of slowly evolved towards it. He was just supposed to be this fucked up presence with some nails in his face that
yeah,
looked creepy and had like bloody nipples, and then
yeah.
like over time they're like, well, he's our iconic brand. Personally, I've been going through the whole Hellraiser series recently, and personally, I feel like after the second one, they should have figured out some other villain to use and just explored more aspects of Hell instead of just falling back on the well of, well, it's Pinhead, let's bring Pinhead back.
Yeah, it's they really kind of laid into like, this is the face of our franchise
Yep.
when like they could have done a better job of bringing out what the Cenobites and Hell are as a whole rather than
Hmm.
just leaning into one guy. And I'm not trying to take away from how good Pinhead is. Pinhead's a fantastic villain. But it's a franchise that I think short-sighted itself in what it decided to do.
Yeah. Hannibal Lecter at number 7, and yes, no, yes, no, maybe yes. I mean, they clearly want us to throw the love at Anthony Hopkins' version, which is good in Silence of the Lambs and less good in everything else.
Yeah,
Um,
not
yeah,
so great, and the other ones. Shout out to Ray Fiennes though in Red Dragon. Not Hannibal Lecter, but a fantastic job as a spin-off of Hannibal Lecter's franchise there from I
mhm.
think it was a prequel even.
It was
But
a remake of the same story, Red Dragon, that
mhm,
also led to the adaptation of Manhunter in 1986.
mhm. And
Hmm.
he's just very creepy. Again, we're onto the actor's presence of bringing the character
Hmm.
to life, which I guess is the whole point. But the not blinking when he's looking at you, the very calm, collected, dissecting nature of his,
Yeah,
the way he tries to break you down. He's a very good villain, very creepy, and he eats people.
yeah. And Mads Mikkelsen played a very good version of the character who doesn't like it builds his own way, but still feels like he studied Anthony Hopkins'
Yeah.
performance. There's
Mhm.
an effete killer, unlike anything you're gonna see in the rest of this list. He is
Mhm.
like very interesting when he's done right. Not always
Yeah.
done right is the problem.
Yeah. Mads Mikkelsen is a fantastic actor as well. I'll buy into a lot of things that he does,
Hmm.
so I can get behind that. Agreed.
Hannibal's a great TV series.
Mhm.
It ended too soon. We needed the rest of the novels to get adapted properly by the Pushing Daisies guy.
Mhm.
So
All right, on to number 6 here.
meh meh
It
meh meh meh.
I never was a big fan. I
No.
remember when I went to go see the remake of Texas Chainsaw like
Hmm.
20 years ago, the one with Jessica Biel and a couple
Yeah.
of other, popular actors. I remember just being like, uncomfortable with like, the way he was just killing people. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't scary. It wasn't
Mm-mm.
it was just and it's the genre, sure, but it was just like grotesquely, overbearingly violent that just didn't
Yeah.
really do it for me.
The entire series is built on torture porn from the very
Hmm.
beginning.
Yeah.
Very beginning. I back when I worked at Blockbuster years and decades ago, which is sad. I did the horror movie section. I went through everything, and I watched the Texas Chainsaw series up through the one that was released at the time, which was the Next Generation. It had got a very early career Renee Zellweger and
Is that the one, McConaughey?
McConaughey. Thank you. I was
Yeah.
like, I always, I know his name, but I always think Woodhouse because
Yeah. All right, all right, all
all
right.
right, all right, all right, because that's the only character he plays.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was the two of them in it, and that was a terrible movie. But
Yeah.
that was par for the course because the entire series was just terrible. It was affecting if you took it at face value that it was a documentary of what these kids went through or like
Right.
a dramatization of it. But
Right.
the second that artifice falls away and they just stretch the series out past a single movie, oh, it's awful. It's just bad.
Yeah, and I never was a fan of the franchise. Like I
Mm,
said, it's uncomfortable. Like I like violence, I like gore, but it was just uncomfortable. I remember just being a little nauseous, and then maybe that's the point. Maybe I'm underselling how good it actually was. But when he
yeah.
lifts the when she finds her friend, right,
Yep.
who had his leg cut off, and I'm talking like the most recent one from like 2020, not the most recent, but the remake with Jessica Biel. When she finds her friend hanging on the meat hook, who had his leg cut off, and like he puts the salt on the thing and wraps the leg so he won't bleed out, and she tries to like lift him up, and he just keeps falling down and getting impaled. Like it's just
Mm,
visually uncomfortable to watch, and I didn't
yeah.
like it.
Yeah. No, it's torture porn. That's all it is. It's not scary. It's just grody, and it does nothing for me. Speaking of things that do something for me, though, Count Dracula at number 5. Thank you very much. I'll take this one.
Go
Every
for it.
version, any version, Dracula. I don't really feel like I need to say anything more than that. I have no notes.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic. Just it's Dracula. I
It's
mean,
Dracula. It's
you can put him number one, and I'm not going to argue.
I'm not going to argue. No, he is the classic movie villain who has stuck around this whole time. Yes, different for people have done different interpretations, but then I mean, Leatherface has had 3 or 4 reboots in the short time span. If we get to put Leatherface on this list, Dracula in all of his forms gets to be on here, and it's great. But
Yeah,
if you think of any one villain that really started the whole idea of long-running movie franchise monsters, it's Dracula. He gets
yeah,
to be the one. He gets to carry on.
yeah, yep.
Mm,
Agreed, 100%. From Nosferatu beginnings to what we have now as the modern vampire,
yep.
just brilliant, brilliant, and from horror to kid movie. I mean, he's got range. I mean, Dracula is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I will take umbrage with the next one, though, for the same reasons I've had umbrage with all the other bad entries. The Xenomorphs at number 4.
And see, I'm going to say I'm good with this because I think that they are
They're a
a
race, they're a
they're
species.
they're a collective. They're a collective, a hive mind, if you will.
But they've never
But
established that they're a hive mind. They just assume. That's
they,
different.
and I think maybe that's what makes them so scary. And the fact that they don't kill you, they just bring you back to reproduce, repopulate,
Yeah.
and keep increasing their numbers. Yeah, sometimes they'll kill you, sure, but the majority of the time they're just looking to increase their presence and increase what they are. And from the human form that they take to the dog form to the whatever they're gonna the predalien if you want, which is horrible, but okay, they take on
It was
the
horrible.
form of whatever host they have, and that just makes them fucking scary. And I love the franchise. I'm a huge fan of it. Sigourney Weaver's fantastic, and as Ripley in every role she's ever done. I don't care how bad that Alien Resurrection was, I still loved it because of Sigourney Weaver. I could be fine with them not on the list, but I'm not going to argue with them at number 4.
I think they're a great movie monster, and for a movie monsters list, I would honestly absolutely put them on there. I
Mhm.
think if you're doing a villain though, you have to single out like the Alien Queen or something,
Right.
which is different. It's a different list in that regard, and that's my problem. Like I think the Alien series is great. I even liked Alien Resurrection up until the last
Mhm.
15 minutes when it just goes right off the rails.
Right.
Right off the rails.
Yeah.
Um, but I have issues with them being on a list of villains, especially when we consider the ones that make it into the top 3 and who's at number 5, because those are
Mhm.
actual villains and not just
Right.
monsters.
Yeah. I think that, the xenomorph as a whole is more of an ideal again, and it's a collective group. It's not one singular villain.
Hmm.
Getting into the top three, I mean, if you've been paying any attention, you know who these top three are going to be
Hmm.
in no specific order, but they are, if you want to put a Mount Rushmore of horror villain, these three are it.
Yeah, like my Mount Rushmore is these three plus Chucky because they're
Hmm.
just the iconic ones I think of when I think of slasher killers. But it's
Yep.
at number three, Jason Voorhees, who I always think of as Diet Michael Myers.
I love Jason. Again, he's a violent guy, but he's got an ideal behind him. You know, revenge. You know, on those kids. You know, don't sleep with each other, camp counselors. You're gonna get it. And he wasn't even the main villain in the first movie. It was the mother.
Yep.
So Jason, you know, wasn't even the main villain in the first Jason movie, and he just grew from that because of how popular he was. And you know, dozens of movies. I can't even think of how many they have. And you know, I'll watch them all from the original one to Jason X in Space, which was horrible, to any of the other new ones. You know, Freddy versus Jason. I love that movie. I don't care.
Jason X really is horrible, but there are some decent entries in there, and I liked the idea behind some of the reinventions they tried to do after they killed him off in like the fifth movie, and they wanted someone else to take over the hockey mask with slightly different markings on it for the
Right.
sixth one. I thought that was a good way to commit to it. They just didn't commit to the bit, and they reverted afterwards and tried to like reboot away what they did, which didn't
Mhm.
work so well for me. But there's some interesting ideas. The one that wasn't officially Carrie, but where he basically fought Carrie was amusing.
Mhm.
But there are some terrible entries, like the second one, the third one. Oh, the one in 3D was bad. The
Yeah.
Jason X, and of course Jason Takes Manhattan, which is
Yeah.
mm,
The, the
okay.
the 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 best part about him being on this list is how many bad movies he has, but
Yes,
because the character and villain itself is so popular, look how high they are. I mean, the
mhm,
franchise, it's successful. It's been going on for damn near 40 years, but are they good? No.
no, not really.
But you know what you're watching when you sign up to see him, and you're
Yep.
watching Jason, and you're just trying to see how high that body count gets.
Yeah, I know you had an issue with this, but I actually do think I'd put Freddy Krueger higher than Jason, and he's at number two.
I'm fine with this top three in really any order. I'm happy who's number one. Don't get me wrong, but Freddy to me, I never found him scary. I remember in Freddy versus Jason, if you want to run back that movie and watch how many kills does Freddy have in that movie compared to Jason, it is not even close. How
Okay,
many
but
kills he has?
I want
Not.
to argue the point that for the first half of the film, most of those kills should be credited to Freddy because he's controlling Jason.
And you know that's fair, but even like it's when it's like literally 35-3 or something like that, it's like even if you want to give him half, Jason's still way out in front.
I I think Freddy gets through on this list on the strength of three movies specifically for me. The
Mhm.
first one, the third one, and then New Nightmare.
Yeah, and you know there it's a fantastic franchise, and shout out to Robert Englund who did an amazing job for almost 20 years playing that role. He is that role, will always
Hmm.
be my Freddy, even though I don't like Freddy in a way. I will love Robert Englund's character and portrayal of him. Um, it's it's a good franchise. It's got longevity like the other ones as well. I just never found him scary personally.
Yeah, I would agree
He's a
with that.
fun, he's a funny horror villain, and when they started really laying into him, just calling everybody bitch, it just kind of lost it for me a
Which,
little bit.
but that did lead to the great second episode from Rick and Morty with the scary
Scary
Terry.
Terry, yeah, Scary Terry, yeah, and the Scary Terry is scarier than Freddy Krueger.
You can run, but you can't hide, bitch. I love that
Bitch,
episode. Love that
it's a good,
episode. I love
it's a
it.
good.
And what I think one of my favorite part of that episode is at the very end where they give him new pants, and he's like, "Oh, bitch."
Bitch.
My wife will say that to me when I give her, so she's like, "Oh, bitch."
It's good. And Freddy is iconic. Freddy
Yep,
deserves to be on this list. Freddy deserves to be in the top three. I just don't find him scary.
that's fair. And I don't find him scary either, but I like the mood of some of his movies specifically.
Right.
Now,
Agreed.
speaking all about mood, and I think that's the only reason why I have less qualms with this than I could otherwise is Michael Myers at number one for this list. I think I would completely reorder this list in various ways. Um, but like most of his movies are bad. They're just bad
They are.
movies.
Yeah.
But that first movie is fucking scary as shit. With the
Yeah,
like, it's got a tiny body count, but that suits to its favor because most of what it is creepy mood.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
John Carpenter, who made the movie as
Again,
well. Yeah,
again,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
On this list several times.
King of horror right here.
Mhm,
He balanced the music with like barely seeing the killer at times, keeping a lot of dark sets, letting
mhm,
things slowly build over time. It
mhm.
creates scares without necessarily needing the kills. And that was
Right.
like as the shape from the first movie.
Mhm.
The shape of Michael Myers was far more effective than anything he actually did.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think, like you said, the body count, it's low. It may be
Hmm.
half a dozen. It might not even be that many. But it's effective,
Hmm.
and its presence and the scariness of it. Around the corner, is he going to get the kid? Is he not going to get the kid? Is he going to get the friend this time? Doing her laundry in the garage. You see her. You can see him in the window, but she can't see him. And oh my god, he's not there anymore. It's the little things that they did in the movie
Hmm.
that made it so brilliant and scary and terrifying. In the 70s, like that was some peak horror. Would that work nowadays? Probably not. You got to get your jump scare in. You got to get your horror to the nth degree now compared to the way things used to be. But that it holds up as a movie. Michael Myers, to
Hmm.
me, I will put it number one. Him, Freddy, or Jason at number one. I'll group Michael Myers at number one 100% of the time. Um, Imposing. You're never able to get away. You can run as fast as you want. He's right around the corner waiting for you. And he's soulless he has no rhyme, reason, or anything.
Yeah, no.
He's just death incarnate.
And that was what I think the problem that the later movies had was so many of them focused on the connection that they made in the second movie, which wasn't in the first.
Right.
That Laurie Strode was his like sister,
Yeah,
and that
yeah, yeah.
when they killed her off for the fourth, fifth, and sixth movies, it was his niece.
Yeah.
And then they brought her back in a reboot that kind of got rid of half those movies. The whole franchise is fucked up, but like they always try to keep that connection, and even when they got rid of the connection between him and her for the most recent trilogy, they were still like, well, but he still wants to kill her. And it's like,
Yeah.
why? Why her? What part of his MO suits that he has to go kill this 70-year-old woman? Like, I don't buy it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I never really quite understood the reason. I get the wanting to come back to your hometown and cause some
Hmm.
chaos and carnage,
Yeah.
and I could buy that much more
Yeah.
than the whole sibling thing. Like you didn't even know her, and
No.
and now you need to kill her. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's what made it really sunk itself into the veins of the franchise. So it comes with the territory, whatever.
It did become the DNA of the franchise.
It
But
really did.
but it is much more effective when it's just he's just this guy going around killing
Yeah,
babysitters in town for no reason.
yeah,
That's where the scares come in, and the second you start mythologizing it, it falls apart. And I think that's like you can see that for a lot of those. I liked some of the later Freddy movies, but anytime that they started like putting in mythology about him, oh, he's going after this girl in the sixth one because she's secretly his daughter. You're like, really?
yeah.
I don't actually care about this. That's too much story for a guy who's much better when he's just killing people
I
for the
could buy
sake of it.
I could buy Freddy getting revenge on the parents that burned him and their
Yes,
kids. Like that I could get behind because
that's it.
that made I understood that. But then because Freddy didn't have a daughter.
No, he didn't.
No.
There was no reason for it. It didn't. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense when they tried to re-mythologize Jason as this weird dark worm that went from body to body in
Right.
Jason Goes to Hell, which I thought in general was actually a very effective gore fest. But the
Yeah.
mythologizing, it's just not necessary. The only villain on this list I think actually benefits from mythology is Dracula, and that's because he's based on a real fucking person. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and Dracula, so many different incarnations, so many different, phrases and forms that he's had over the years, and
Mhm.
it's really withstood the test of time. And all of them are scary and some are funny, but at the same time, there's still a bit of terror in there as well because it's a fucking vampire.
Yep. The Dracula benefits from being scary and sexy. Hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey now.
So he's sexier than Michael Myers.
Yeah, I mean maybe Michael Myers, but not that William Shatner mask.
No, not Not the mask, please no. You know he's got to have the worst hat head underneath that mask too. Just go
Oh my
take a
god.
shower before you try it, man. Come on.
God, I don't even want to know what that smells like.
It's got to be rancid in there. Damn.
It's so bad.
Anyway, anyone else you would put on this list? I put Herbert West on there. Do you have someone that you feel is missing?
I mean, giving it like a quick thought, like, if we're going not just necessary, like, people, because xenomorphs around here and zombies around here. I found Tremors worms pretty scary as a kid. Do I think they're worthy of this list? No, but that's
yeah,
that's a horror. Yeah, they were fun, and that was a horror movie that kind of tripped me up as a kid. But I mean, I think this list does a pretty good job for the most part. Your top three are your top three, and they're going to be there. The other ones, you can shuffle them around in any order. Dracula should probably be number 4, if not in the top 3. Yeah, but Jason, Freddy, and Michael, I mean, that is horror.
I would probably put Dracula at number 1, and not just because I like vampires, but because I think deep down, without Dracula and his constant reinvention and like making new versions of his series over and over again, proving that a movie monster can stand the test of time, do you necessarily get these other monsters like that? You gotta have a trailblazer. Dracula was not only a trailblazer, but he's fucking stuck around.
Yeah, there is longevity there, and vampires aren't going anywhere anytime soon, so they will be there for time to come. You may lose Michael Myers for 20 years here or there, and they try to reboot him. You don't got to reboot Dracula. Dracula's always been there.
Dracula's always there.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we should probably wrap it up because, man, we've gone about an hour at this point on this one. Wow.
That was a long list, and it was a good chat. I had some fun doing that.
This has been Not So Live from Asteroid G, reminding you to put out your garlic and your garlic flowers and any other kind of garlic you might have to keep Dracula's away. I'm Mike Finkelstein. With me is...
the other Mike Luffy.
And we will see you guys next time.